Okay, we're on lesson 8 now. This lesson is about perimeter and area. Okay, now before we can start, we're going to have to define what perimeter and area even are. Perimeter is the distance around an object. Okay, so the distance around an object. And then you find perimeter by adding up all the sides. Those are both important. So perimeter is distance around the outside of this rectangle. Okay, meaning how many squares would I have to walk around the outside of the rectangle? Well, if I started in this corner and I walked, I'd have to walk 1, 2, 3, 4 squares that way, and then I'd have to go 1, 2, 3 squares down, and then I'd have to go 1, 2, 3, 4 squares across again, and then 3 squares up. So that's all the sides of the rectangle. I've got a 4 by 3 rectangle. So we find the perimeter, the distance around the objects, tell how many squares around the object we want to walk by adding up all the sides. Okay, so we're going to take 4 plus 3 plus 4 plus 3 to find the perimeter. Well, 4 plus 3 is 7, 7 plus 4 is 11, 11 plus 3 is 14. Okay, and when we talk about perimeter and area, we always need to put a label on it. Sometimes they might tell you it's centimeters or something like that, but we don't have a label on this one. And when we don't have a label, we're just going to put units. Okay, so I'm going to walk a total of 14 units around the outside. We can check that real quick. Oops, don't want to do that. Okay, we can check that real quick. If I start my X, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 units around the outside. Okay, so that's what perimeter means. Perimeter is kind of like fencing. Like pretend that this picture right here this is a garden in here, and perimeter is like the fence you want to set up around the outside of it. Okay? Now let's talk about area. Area is the amount of space an object covers. Okay? And we find the area by multiplying the length and the width together. Okay? So the area is going to be the amount of space this shape takes up. So that's going to be all these little squares in here. Okay? Now when the picture is drawn like this with squares, we could find how many squares the area is by just counting them. Okay? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 squares inside there. So that means this object has an area of 12. But we're not always going to have the grid in the middle, okay, with all the squares. So we have to know how to find the area if they give us a shape that looks like this without any of the squares on the inside. Okay? And how we do that is by multiplying the length and the width. The area has a formula, okay, and this is for rectangles and for squares. Okay, area equals length times width. Okay, and more commonly you're going to see that written like this: area equals length times width. Okay, so it's all abbreviated. And that's on your NISA formula sheet that should be in your math binder, that plain sheet of paper. So if you ever forget that formula, you can look on there. Alright, so to solve for the area of this by using the formula, we just need to plug in the correct numbers. Okay, so I'm going to slide this up a little bit here. So we're trying to find the area. We don't know what that is. Okay. The length is usually my longer side. Well, the longer side in this case is 4. And it's the length times the width. My width is the shorter side, that's 3. So I'm going to take 4 times 3, and I'm going to get an area of 12. Okay? Now last time, we had to put a label on, and we put units. Okay? This time, we're going to put a label on again. We're going to put units. but I multiplied two things together. Okay, so when I multiply two things together, I have to put a 2 for my exponents, so it's units squared now. Okay, and look at your picture. Here's the reason why up here. Because when we talk about area, look at the things I shaded in. Each one of these is a square. So that's why it's units squared, because they make a little square. Okay? So perimeter, you always just put units or centimeters or feet or whatever the unit is. And for area, you have to put units squared, centimeters squared, feet squared. Area is always squared. Okay? So that's the difference between perimeter and area. So let's go on to some more examples. Okay, this says a rectangular room is 5 yards long and 4 yards wide. So here's our picture right here. I want to know how many feet of baseboard are needed to reach around the room. Okay, if you see feet of baseboard, that's like a wall kind of, okay, like the bottom of the wall. So when I talk about baseboard, I'm going to underline that in blue here, that's this stuff around here. Okay, so how many feet of baseboard are needed to reach around the room? Well, remember, we're going to find that baseboard, that's like the perimeter. Okay, so we need to add up all the sides. Well, I've got 5 yards plus 4 yards plus this side down here at the bottom is going to be 5 yards, and this side over here, and this side is going to be 4 yards. So 5 plus 4 plus 5 plus 4. 5 plus 4 is 9. 9 plus 5 is 14. 14 plus 4 is 18. This time, instead of putting units, they told us what the unit is. It's yards, so I'm going to put 18 yards. Okay? Now for the area, or sorry, for part B, it says how many square yards of carpet are needed to cover the floor. So when we talk square yards, we're talking about the inside, okay, all these little squares. Now you could find that by counting them all up, or you can use the area formula. Okay? Area equals length times width. Alright? So I'm going to plug them in. Area equals my length is the longer side, that's 5, times my width is 4, and I multiply those. 5 times 4 gives me 20. Now remember, I got to put my units, yards, and because I'm talking about the area, these little squares, it's got to be squared. Okay, and we're going to ignore part C for now. We're not going to worry about that. Alright, let's go on to another example.